8:12 p.m. for the Brizzy Point City Council on Monday, May 3rd, 2021. Moving on into the agenda, we've now moved to item 5 in the agenda, which is open forum.
Actually, consent, did you approve consent agenda?
My apologies. Back up. Yes, item number 4 on the agenda is the consent agenda. Item A, council minutes for April 5th, 2021. I'm asking that these be removed from the consent agenda and moved to item 6A under the mayor's reports. There needs to be a correction made to the minutes. So I'm asking that we remove that. Number B, approval of claims totaling $556,415.36. This includes electronic checks 2756E through 2758E and written checks 136707 through 136771. Item C under consent agenda, adopt resolution 10-2021 accepting donations to the cemetery, totaling in the amount, I believe, of $550. Moving on, approve sale of excess office equipment. So with the one exception of the removal of item A, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items as read?
So moved. Second.
Okay, I have Councilmember Bakken with the first, Councilmember Maroney with the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Now on to item 5 on the agenda. Anybody who wishes to address the council in open forum at this time? Okay. Seeing no one, open forum is now closed. Moving on to item 6, mayor and city council reports and committee reports. Item A, mayor. First, I will address the fire department. Should have received a memo in your packets from staff. We had a meeting last week with the city of Pequot Lakes. We met with this city administrator, and I met with the city administrator and the mayor from Pequot Lakes to discuss what we discussed in last council meeting regarding the fire department. As you well know, we have some concern with regards to the contract and the rising costs that are there associated with different things. One, replacing equipment. Also, another thing is the increasing of the pensions for the firefighters there, resulting in some of the highest that we see around in the area. We outlined with the mayor of Pequot Lakes and with their administrator some options. Those are the ones that you saw listed in your packet under the memo that was provided. And we had a good discussion with them. I think it was very positive. They definitely are interested in wanting to work with the city of Breezy Point with regards to potentially entering into some type of a joint powers agreement as a dual fire department. They are planning to bring it to their council. I believe tomorrow is when their council meeting is, and they do have it on the agenda for discussion. So they are looking at that. And we discussed a variety of things. We discussed a fire district. We discussed a joint power between the two cities. And we discussed the idea that, there's a potential that the city of Breezy Point could and, does have the ability to go elsewhere to seek their fire services. But ultimately, we're looking at what are the opportunities that present ourselves with the city of Pequot Lakes. So they're very open to that. We've got another meeting scheduled with them for May 21st to meet with them again, and discuss more of these things, get feedback from them after they've spoken with their council to see what the direction is there. And so we'll be continuing to gather information. We shared with them several pieces of information. One was a study on a fire district that was done down in the Twin Cities. It's been a very successful one down there. We also talked about some other things with regards to some information of research that's been done in this area about a potential fire district. So overall, it was a good discussion. We had good feedback from them, and I'm excited about the potential possibilities as we move forward. So we'll continue to work on that and see where it goes. Ultimately, we gave them, as you saw in the memo, that we needed to have something by October to be looking at, because we have to give notice, as you well know, way ahead of time with regards to if we're gonna stay in that contract or not with them. So, again, positive outcome there. They also had their fire board meeting this last Wednesday. The city administrator and I were both unable to attend. The city administrator was receiving his COVID vaccination that day. But then also, myself, I was unable to attend too. So, but they had a good meeting. He applied the agenda, out there, and, you saw that was in there, so. So that's what we have, that's what I have to report on there. I also do want to report that the finance committee met, briefly. And we had a discussion about the road project and, looking at, potentially how, and some of the ideas of how we're gonna start thinking about funding the project as we move forward. You saw some of the information that were provided by city staff on our packets. So we'll continue to address that. City staff is looking at some options and ideas that they're gonna bring back around to the finance committee for us to address as we move forward to look at, everything from the, setting our budget for the future. So I just wanted to give a brief update on that. I didn't know if Councilmember Ball, if you had anything to add on that at that point.
Nope, thanks.
Okay.
It's a good update.
Okay. And then also in regards to the minutes, so there is one word that needs to be corrected in the council minutes from April 5th, 2021. It's under the report that was given with regards to Shoreview Drive and some of the information that was provided. The word shouldn't should be corrected to read should in there, and we've been apprised, city staff has been apprised of what word that is. So it's basically in, if you want to specifically see it, it's in the page of the minutes.
I'll bring it up.
Will you? Thank you.
There were two double negatives, so made it a positive. Here we go. Right here, the word shouldn't,
Right.
because the doesn't above that, it goofed it up, so we apologize. We'll make that correction, and if council approves the minutes with that correction.
Right. So I'm entertaining a motion to approve the minutes as amended. Do I have a
So
motion?
moved.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, so Councilmember Miller, first, I have a second from Councilmember Wall to approve the minutes as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to item B under 6, city council members. First one up, Personnel Committee. Councilmember Maroney, would you like to go ahead and address that with the council?
Absolutely. Let me get back down there because I was finding shouldn't on my screen. Personnel Committee met last month, addressed a number of items that have been identified as goals for us to talk about and that we discussed at our goal session meeting. So hopefully you've had a chance to review it. I'm going to kind of go through Cliff Notes. In regards to the police department succession planning, with the chief of police setting in motion a retirement date yet to be determined, but coming up soon, we were looking into the future of who could potentially come in there. And what we realized is that while we have police staff that are both police and paramedic, we have two different job classifications for that. We do have a police and we have a police paramedic. Those are two different grades. Looking into the future of who might be stepping into the new roles as advancements may come up, we realized that we should have a sergeant paramedic and a chief paramedic position. So we've reached out to David Drown Associates, who helped us do the job classifications, pay grades, scales, and they helped us identify that. And in your packet, you have the two new job descriptions. One of the action items that we're going to be asking for tonight is to approve those job classifications and put them in our pay grades and scales. So if we would like, we can just ask for that acceptance right now, and then we can move on further. So Mr. Mayor, I'd ask that if all those are in favor of accepting those job classifications.
So do I have a motion to approve those two job classifications as so put forth? There's a motion from there. Do I have a second on the motion?
Second.
I have a second from Councilmember Bakken to to approve the changes in the job descriptions as put forth by the Personnel Committee. Is there any discussion by council members? Councilmember Miller, do you have any discussion?
No, sir.
Councilmember Ball?
No.
Councilmember Bakken?
Good move, congratulations.
Okay. Hearing no other discussion, I think it's the right thing to do, and I like what the Personnel Committee did with it, and I appreciate you guys' hard work on that. I know you guys, working with city staff, worked hard to put that all together, and it took some time, so thank you. And commend the committee on a job well done. All right, no further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.
All right, thank you for that. Item number 2 on our agenda that we had is we talked about building officials. It was discussed at our goal session meeting is to reevaluate, is that a full-time position here? What would it look like? What could it look like? What's it look like today? What we've kind of came down to is the building inspector is more of like a contract for hire right now. It's a contractor that comes in, and they're paid based on a percentage on what the building plans and permits are coming up with. And while we've been busy these last number of years, if the workload were to be reduced, that would be staff time that we'd have a head count that we wouldn't have necessary jobs for them to do. So at this time, we've felt that actually using the contractor, Mr. Sadusky's, we felt that that is a better route to go at this point. We've looked at the financials, the workloads, we looked at a number of items there. I'm going to move on because I'd like to hit on 2 more bullet points before we can open up discussion. City planner was also reviewed. Again, that is another contractor that is not an official city employee that we utilize. They work as needed. We have cleaned up some items by addressing items in their voicemail, alerting customers or citizens to know what days they are actually working, and if they need immediate resolution, how to get a hold of somebody and push, I don't know the whole dial tree, but they have options to be able to speak to somebody. So again, as we see fit, we haven't seen a justification for that full-time staff for that dedicated position. Now here's where I'm going to move on to number 4. This did lead into where could we use an additional head count, and it's more of a well-versed, rounded person, somebody who could potentially handle city administrative assistants, city planner assistants, payroll assistants, somebody that can help out all around. And so we've asked staff to start looking into that, what would that position look like, and what would it entail for salary, the whole 9 yards, to see if that would be a better alternative to go than to replace 2 individuals with a direct individual, that we look at a well-versed, rounded employee. So I'm going to pause there to see if there's any comments or feedback that Ms. Ball and I can take back as the Personnel Committee.
Councilmember Bakken, you have your hand raised.
I do have some comments, and I want to commend you. I haven't been privy to what's been going on in the background. The administrator and I have had some discussions the last couple of months about same. And from my perspective, it's imperative we have somebody here during the high season, if you will, on a regular schedule. So when people come in here, they're not turned away. That's very important. And when I say regular schedule, I'm talking about Monday through Friday. Limit the hours, fine, but all 5 days. Merely a suggestion on my part. In lieu of the 40 bills last year, 2020, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's 40 new starts, so that it's skyrocketing. It's going to continue to do that, which necessitates not necessarily a full-time planner, if you will, but somebody there 5 days a week in the high season. So I commend you for your plan. I like what I'm hearing. That's all I have to say, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Miller.
I'd like to add that while I acknowledge the work that you guys did to come to the monitor of the planning and zoning official as well as the independent contract building official, I still firmly believe that a consolidated approach to a full-time individual representing both planning and zoning and building together would benefit the city. I also agree with Councilmember Bach in that availability, increased availability, while maybe not a full 40, definitely a 5-day-a-week presence.
Mr. Mayor, may I make one more comment? And the counselor brought something to mind, and a compliment on your combination of getting somebody else you can move both ways there. And what really brings that testimony to my knowledge is I've watched Patrick last year, and even into not so much this year, but last year. He has to do a lot of what that planner has to do when he's not there, and he's got to cover for it. So I've watched that, and I really like that hybrid, if you will. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I would just like to state that I like what the Personnel Committee has done, putting together some good things to bring back to the council for us to look at. I understand the need for us to have somebody here when our increase in permitting goes up, and we know when that is. We know it's in that 5-6 month period in the summertime, and then it drops off into the wintertime. And so that idea of having a hybrid person or somebody who can be cross-trained in multiple areas to be able to come in and do that, I think is a superb idea. Because it allows us to fill that ability in the summertime when we need it, but then not be having somebody who's a full-time person all the time sitting on their heels necessarily in the wintertime because there's not always so much for them to do, when then they can be working on other areas, which gives relief to our city administrator, gives relief to our finance department, gives relief to our assistant clerk in a variety of different capacities and areas, and I think that benefits. I've always been a huge advocate of that type of a person who can do a lot of different things and provide, and still we can do it probably, and I know you guys are going to do some research, but I have to believe it's probably going to be less than what we would be looking at if we were looking at one dedicated full-time person. So that's my views on the idea, and I appreciate it, and I encourage you guys to move forward with that research.
Thank you. And one thing that we did discuss was that, full-time, summertime, but to get a qualified individual, and we don't want to hire to fire and lay off during those winter times. So that's why we came to the conclusion of that well-rounded individual that will step up and will have an individual here Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. It will be a cohort of a position, so.
I agree. I think it's a great idea, and I encourage you guys to continue to look at that.
Thank you. Move on to some other items that we had.
Michael, I don't know if we gave Rebecca a chance to
Oh.
speak.
On those specifics, sorry.
Councilmember Ball.
Oh, that's okay. He's doing a good job of summarizing what we talked about, so.
And
Thank
always
you.
correct me if I'm not saying something. Number 5, we did talk about a policy in regards to if an employee would like to see additional changes or benefits. We just would like to get a policy more formalized that those type of requests will go to the city administrator and for him or her at that point to address those concerns and be that decision maker. It'll be something that if need be, he'll bring to the personnel committee for review and then the council for official acceptance, but that they have the ability to review those first and deny or move on. That was a policy that we direct staff to do. We did have some issues come up with language in our current policy in regards to hours worked. And you can kind of see in the report here about some situations that potentially could arise. And I'll kind of outline one of them is if a employee took off a single day, let's say Monday, took 8 hours of PTO, continued to work the next 4 days as PTO, so they had 40 hours of work. Sorry, I should say 40 hours of pay, 32 of it was worked hours, 8 was personal time off or vacation. If they were called in Saturday to work a full 8-hour shift, that would be at regular pay as our current policy states, because those first 8 hours that they had were not considered worked hours, and overtime is only paid on worked hours over 40 hours. So after reviewing it, we felt that changing of the policy to include that vacation or sick time, if taken, is considered worked hours. So employees are not shortchanged and question themselves if they should come in on a Saturday to do items.
Okay.
And the last item for a policy discussion was we wanted to promote those who donate blood. You know, blood is always in need for Red Cross and individuals. And so we wanted to do something for employees. You can only donate blood, I believe, every 120 days. I don't know the official one is on it. But we wanted to offer employees an incentive to be able to do that and do good for our community and people around the world here. And so we wanted to offer a 4-hour blank of PTO if they go, sorry, I keep saying PTO, vacation time, time off, to donate blood. So to do a little employee incentive for that, to encourage our employees to do that.
I would say all the recommendations you've come up with are very good. I jump back to the piece on the time off and then having to come in on Saturday, and I absolutely understand where that could be, and I could see where that could create, as you stated, maybe a question, because the employees all of a sudden, well, I'm not gonna get paid that extra time for coming in, so why would I step forward? And so I do really think that that's something we need to address as a council, and I would encourage you get the personnel committee to come back with something official and allow us to hopefully take action as a committee on it. I also would state that your piece regarding the blood drive is a wonderful one. I mean, if we're always working to get our community involved, then our staff are a part of that community as well. And so offering that opportunity to them to do a good deed and to be able to give back not only just here, but as you said, around the world, really. I mean, it's a pay it forward type thing. So I like both of those. I don't know if Councilmember Bakken or Councilmember Miller, any specific comments to any of those recommendations of the Personnel Committee?
No, I think they did a great job, and I don't want to negate against an assistant for Patrick. I know he's got a lot on his plate, and, you know, anywhere we can assist him, you know, I think I'm all for that.
Okay. Councilmember Ball, any additional comments on top of Councilmember Maroney's?
Nope. No,
Okay.
Thanks.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Ms. Ball and I will work with staff to come up with those policies and have them in front of you in future meetings.
Excellent. Thank you. Again, thanks to the Personnel Committee for your hard work on that. I know you guys have put a lot of effort into that. There's been a lot of moving parts going on there with all the changes in the descriptions and updating it and trying to figure it all out. So I appreciate you guys' efforts as a council, and also please pass that on to the rest of the committee. It's very, very well helpful. So thank you. All right. Moving on, I don't believe we have any other committee reports at this time.
Road Committee.
Oh, yes. Do you have any additional comments over what was shared earlier by Bolton and Mink from either of the council members on the road committee?
I have nothing further to add.
Okay.
No, things are going very well with those meetings.
I guess the one thing we wanted to highlight, we included it in the packet, was the letter from Tim Bray.
Okay.
Now, he was asked, I think he's feeling some political pressure in a non-political position because bluntly, the townships are saying they can't afford this multi-million-dollar road project, and so we need to know what the priorities are, and Mr. Bray took the time, and I understand he sent it to each of the different communities, so, but he highlights specifically what's being required, and there's some very steep requirements as far as compared to what Bushman looks today.
Yeah, it'll change the face of that road if it goes to those standards. Yes, absolutely.
And again, just to revitalize of why that is again, as the coalition looks at this, it's not just a local road improvement that we are looking at. Granted, that is a minimum need that we will be doing. The goal is to offset those and be able to upgrade it to county standards to turn over to the county for future maintenance and take over that road. So this is part of that reason. Sorry to.
No, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would agree with that 100%. I mean, I read through what Mr. Bray provided to us, and while those are what, as the city administrator said, steep, the bottom line is that's what a county requires for a road. Drive a county road, look at it. Those are what they have.
Project cost is going to reflect in the end product, though, and I think that what we've often reiterated through our meetings with the coalition is that reaching a CASA standard to hand off to the county has been, of primary importance. But I know Bolton and Menk have entertained a plan B, if you will, that would get us to, a similar standard should the county, I guess, should price become the end factor.
Well, I commend the road committee for your continued work on that too. This is a huge project, massive undertaking. I appreciate what you guys do to represent the city and working with the coalition, moving it forward. So thanks for the reports, keep them coming, and we'll keep moving forward with it. I mean, at the end of it, we need the road updated. And if we look at it in a big picture scale, we need to do it right while we have the opportunity, so. All right. Any other things under committee reports? I don't think we have at this point. So I'm going to move on to item 7 in the agenda, and that's administrator and staff reports. Item 7A is to approve purchase of playground fall protection material. We received the memo, as you saw in our packets. This is a part of replacing the playground equipment. Of course, at the last council meeting, we approved the expenditures to have those replaced, and it looks like June 1st is the day that's set right now for that installation to begin, which that's where the timing of this playground fall protection material comes in. We received it at a very good rate, and so I'm looking to entertain a motion to approve the expenditure of the money to be able to purchase that playground fall protection.
So move.
I have a motion from Councilmember Bach, and do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Maroney. Is there any further discussion from council members? Councilmember Miller?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, and maybe I missed it, the wording, is this rubber mulch? Is this the fall protection area?
This is wood fiber.
Okay,
So it's not a wood chip like you're used to, let's call it a micro wood chip.
okay.
It is the current material we're using right now out there.
Oh, it's much
Nope.
finer.
It's much finer than the
I'm
current
gonna-
material.
I should
okay.
correct and say engineered,
Engineer.
sorry, no, engineered fiber.
Okay, excellent, all right.
It's a good point of
I
clarification.
got two engineers right next to me, great.
That's a good point of clarification. I just, yep.
Councilmember Ball, any comments?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay, Councilmember Bakken,
No, sir.
Councilmember Maroney?
None.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposition? Abstentions? The motion passes. All right, and so now we're on to 7B, which is review and approve feasibility study for community center. And I believe we have some representatives here that would, from Witsit Knowlton, who would want to, do you guys want to come up and present a little?
No, if you're just gonna approve it, we won't need to.
Well, that's being very confident, I believe.
Well, what I did do, because this is kind of out of my realm, I'm not a community organizer person, but I did bring Lindsay with, and she is gonna introduce herself and
Okay.
tell you about the proposal.
Outstanding, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lindsay Krenz with Widseth. I am an interior designer. Multiple hats that we wear as interior designers at Widseth. One of them is a big picture planner. So I do big picture planning for educational facilities, K-12, higher education, healthcare, municipalities such as yourself. So today we present to you a proposal for a feasibility study for a community center. So what does that entail? When we think about building a school or a clinic, it's kind of finite. We know exactly what that's going to be, but a community center really embraces the ideas of your community and is different from facility to facility. So understanding you, the council members, what the goal is for the city, and then also reaching out to your community members, which you have some interesting dynamics here. You have your local community, and then you also have seasonal community as well. So being able to capture that wide perspective of all your visitors, everyone that lives here, visits here, plays here, understanding what a community center would look like for that group, and then help to actually define that. So put that on paper. What's the size? Where would it be located? When's the appropriate time to build it? How do we maintain it? How do we operate it? So that whole process is kind of encompassed through a facility feasibility study.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any questions by the council?
Absolutely none.
Okay. Councilmember Wall?
No, thank you. It's great.
Councilmember Miller?
I think you did a fantastic job laying it all out for us.
Councilmember Maroney?
No, I've got no questions.
Okay. And I have, nope, we have the city administrator that'd like to make a comment. Go ahead.
Could we have Lindsay just walk through the proposed schedule so everybody
Yes.
sees that it's part of their packet, and then also review the fee and if they wanted to reduce it while we're asking silly things too, so.
Absolutely. I would be happy to do so. Part of our proposed scope of work, our services, we also provided a schedule. This would extend from basically May 2021 through the fall of 2021. So what that would do is kind of capture a wide audience of your residents and visitors to the area. So step one would be to host a kickoff meeting with the council members, a workshop in sorts, so we could get to know you, understand your goals and desires for such a project. And then we'd also look to host a community open house, actually 3 of those. We talked a little bit about sometimes you capture people right away, they get a chance to go home and think about it, come back again, or maybe even represent themselves later into the fall as some of the summer crew start to taper off a little bit. So that first community open house would really get the message out there, generate excitement, and kind of get people start thinking about this opportunity. And then June of 2021, we would develop a community survey and distribute that. Similar to your comprehensive plan, I think distributing a survey allows you to reach visitors or residents that are not here locally at the time. So a really wide broadcast that we can capture there. And then also tour similar facilities. So an opportunity to kind of check out what the neighbors are doing. They have some similar challenges or opportunities that you may have. So what's worked well for them? Maybe what would they change if they could do things differently? And then what do they think that, would work well for us? So a really good opportunity to get out and see what the neighbors are doing. July would host our second community open house event. Hopefully this would be at the prime peak of people being in the area. August, we would collect and present the survey results to the council. September, we would host a 3rd community event, so this is the last of all 3. October, we would take all of that information and again have our final design workshop. So what does that information mean? How do we compute that? And what does that look like from a building perspective? How does that building look? What's the square footage? How much does it cost to build? And then November, we would have our final presentation to the council for review.
All right.
And they were proposing a cost of $38,500 for this study.
We are, correct. Based on the proposed schedule, we did outline a number of meetings that we have. As part of your design team at Woodseth, you would have myself, Joe Jabel, and Ashley Martell, who is an architect. So a very wide range of perspectives and valuable information that we could bring to the team. So in all of those meetings, you would get a wide array of knowledge, hopefully.
Great. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate the
welcome.
presentation.
Mayor?
Were there any further questions? Yes, go ahead. Councilmember Maroney.
Who would you be working with? Is it the council? Is it a committee that we discuss? Is it the Parks and Rec? Who is it that you recommend that should be on that? Is there a core team? Like, who's the core team?
That's a really great question, and I think that's for us to learn and to figure out. You might be familiar with Woodseth, but maybe not so much with our architectural planning process. So I think in that first initial kickoff meeting, we would establish what does that group look like? Is it just the city council? Do we want to bring in additional groups? Are we bringing in community members? How does that format? And I think we can establish that in that first meeting and then continue to carry that group throughout the whole process.
Okay, thank you.
And to make an additional comment to that, one of the things that I was going to recommend to the council to consider is that we develop a task force made up of community members that are part of that, as well as potential council members who could be on that to provide that review of the data, working with Woodseth directly before it comes back to the council to be considered. And I think then we get that action engagement from the community, which I think is going to be very important in this process because it is a community center. So we want to have that involvement. So I think that's kind of where I would look to, and I would hope potentially the council will be supportive of that. Yes?
One quick comment. I just want to thank you for coming, and I'd like to share just a little bit of the history of this. You may or you may not know, depending on what your research has uncovered. But 5 comprehensive plans, out of the 5 comprehensive plans, 3 of the last have included in the data collected, we want a just exactly what you're doing. So I'm excited to finally see it come to fruition. And I really appreciate everybody's support, because I know people wanted it for a long time. So thank you, good to see you here, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Mr. Councilmember.
Thank you again for your, did you have something to add, or?
Yeah, I would just suggest, we've talked about the idea of task force, and we didn't talk about the thing I'm thinking about, but what I would suggest is, as you said, have 2 council members,
Yes.
and then ask each council members to identify and report to me 2 individuals that they have talked to that would serve on this task force.
Perfect.
And so that would give the task force a committee total of 12.
Yes.
And I think, and the idea is, and it's not a formal decision-making, but in case it falls on a conflict night, we can still get at least 6 people there. And they can be existing committee members from park or road or whatever you've got
absolutely.
out there. So I think that's the route to go from what I've seen with other cities try
Yeah,
this.
and I think that would be beneficial to have people from our other committees, such as Parks and Rec and others, because I think they can lend their background and what they've done on the work of the committee as well, plus having community members that aren't particularly engaged at any level, but could be engaged at this level, because this is something they see as a piece they want to be involved in or a part of. So Patrick, I appreciate that input from that, and I think that's a really good direction for us to go in. And I like the idea that then we always have enough to do something to move forward, and we're not being shortchanged on that end. Councilmember Miller?
The part where we get to go through the other community centers of the adjacent communities, I think could prove useful to how it's maintained, how it's staffed, or how we pay for this as a city. Also, I know that from personal experience, my wife and my children use Cross Lake, and I know my wife. I don't know if wives or spouses or significant others are can't be part of that task force. Is that
You would definitely want to put those on there.
right? Yeah, so I either way. And then just as a point of clarification, to what I read, 30,000 was allocated each year for the last 2 years in the budget.
It's a total of 60,000 that we have budgeted for this process.
Okay.
Yep,
I just
so
wanted to-
that's what's been budgeted is 60,000. That's what we have available.
I think we budgeted less. Can we get that number down?
Michael's trying to negotiate the price down.
Yeah, I see that. I picked up on that little play.
No bonus. Our price does not include the bus or transportation for the. You guys have to come up with that.
So we would be looking for a motion specifically
Yes.
to approve the 38,500 to enter into an agreement with Woodseth, and for each council members to appoint 2 representatives and 2 volunteers from the city council for this
Right.
committee.
Yes. Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Bakken. Do I have a second? Councilmember Miller has a second on that motion. I won't repeat it because our city administrator did a good job of outlining it. So any discussion from Councilmember Maroney?
The only discussion that I'm going to really reiterate is, Mr. Bakken, is that this has been part of the comprehensive plan for the last number of times that I've been involved of it. And so this action, this course of plan doesn't mean we're getting one next year. This is a long-term project, but this is a great step forward, and I'm excited to see it at least take that step.
I'm glad you made the comment, long-term project, because it is.
And I agree totally with you, but it's a foot in the door and people can see their wishes coming.
We're moving in the right direction, and I understand that. So, any other comments from Councilmember Miller?
No, sir.
Councilmember Ball?
No.
Councilmember Bakken? No, sir. All right, hearing no other further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, moving on, item 7C, approved tax forfeited non-conservation parcels. Everybody's received the information in their packet. I hope you took time to review this. And basically what this is these are parcels that are going to be going tax forfeit. Crow Wing County has notified us of these, and we have the opportunity as a city to hold these parcels in conservation for the future purchase and use by the city. And basically, if the city deems that they do not want these parcels for future public use, the city council must deem the parcels as non-conservation so that Crow Wing County can offer them on the future land sale. Basically, city staff has reviewed the parcels and they're seeing that there's no public use for them. I mean, if you looked at them and you went through the pictures that were all provided, it's pretty obvious in most cases. Now, there is one that has a special assessment on it. That would be shared with Crow Wing County. So basically, we would be on half of it. We'd do 50% of it, and the county would do the other half of it. So, and that's the one I believe that's listed with the specials in there, and it has the numbers. So you can see right there on the screen what that amount is. So we'd be splitting that in half with the county. So basically, it's looking at obtaining this. We would then own them or be a part of the city, but they would be considered conservation. Do I have a motion to move forward with getting these as conservation parcels from the county? If we decide not to, then they will put them out there as tax forfeited parcels. But again, these aren't going to serve any public use because of the way they are, where they're at. If you looked at a lot of those, there's that one. Did you see that little sliver? How that ever ended up that way, I have no idea. But so those are all there. So do we have a motion to move these into conservation for the city?
So-
Non-conservation.
Non-conservation.
Non-conservation, excuse me.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to move for non-conservation.
I'll second.
There we go. So I have a motion from Councilmember Miller to move these to non-conservation parcels within the city. I have a second from Councilmember Ball. Do I have discussion? Councilmember Maroney, do you have any discussion?
I have a point of clarification question here. The parcel that has a special assessment that will be shared with the county. I guess you're saying half the special assessment, we have the burden of paying? I thought
Yeah,
once it
I was
goes for
gonna follow
sale.
up with you on that individually, but when we're sharing the amount with them,
Okay,
not the dollar amount. So
Okay.
there's still, the full amount will be assessed when this parcel comes back on at 896741. So.
okay.
So when
Sorry.
it,
My apologies on that.
okay, so when it sells, that special assessment is done like any other tax forfeiting.
Right, that's when it gets sold, that gets put back on there.
Puts back
So
onto
that
there,
people
yep.
don't assume, I'm sorry, when purchasers, they say, oh, I'm gonna buy this lot, then all of a sudden, a week later, they find out that they owe 8761. No, they're told right from the get-go that.
We're sharing the information to the county that
That's
that when they sell it, they need to pay that too.
Thank you. My mix-up on that, so. Okay, any other comments? Councilmember Miller?
Yeah, just on lot 48, block 1, I'm seeing that little highlighted strike there going to .99. Was that just a blip? It didn't,
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
There wasn't any
there's nothing
meaning to that,
okay,
no. I
okay.
think somebody got crazy with a highlighter and touched it. So,
okay.
Which one, I'm sorry?
Councilmember Ball, any comments?
None, thanks.
Councilmember Bakken?
No, sir?
All right. Hearing, Councilmember Maroney?
Patrick, if you go back to the list, he
Yep.
was just clarifying what the highlight meant. Down, see that highlight mark on the fourth line item down?
Lot 48, block 1, White Birch 11. It's just,
Errant.
That's all it was.
yeah.
I said somebody got crazy with a highlighter.
Yeah.
So, all right. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to item 7D, discuss new request from Osawatomie Road residents to detach. I'm going to ask Patrick to just give us a brief update on that. So Patrick, if you'd go ahead and kind of give us just a real brief overview of what's kind of transpired.
Sure. Monday of last week, without any heads-up notice, I received a new petition to detach from the city for the parcels on the north side of Lake Osawatomie. Hope I pronounced that right. Thank you, Lake Osseo then. And they added some additional parcels. This time I included the entire petition so that you could see. They've made some technical corrections about, where, just so that people knew that what they were signing and also the legal descriptions. I've talked with the state about this for a good half hour, and the point is we need to get this to the hearing. We'll worry about the exact details because we need to find out. As I shared one of the last maps with you after you go through everything, so this is the area that I'm showing you now on the screen. The original parcel was on the left side of the screen, and now they added the parcels on the right side of the screen. You can kind of get some enlargement pictures there, and then you've got each of all the different petitions included on there. But I'm going to go to what I thought will be important to the judge when we talk about, is this rural or is it residential? And so these are the pictures from the GIS, and you can see where the different homes are. It gives you an idea, but to better specify that, I then went through and circled each of the residential parcels. There's about 10 parcels to be built. This is built out. This is not a rural 200, 400 acres where there's 1 or 2 homes on it. This is residential land in the city of Breezy Point. This was part of Pelican Township. So when the city was created, this was made the city of Breezy Point. It was never Ideal Township. So that's where the city staff would like to get to the hearing, so we can present this to a judge rather than worrying about the minute details, which we will still bring up and go through as required by law. But we need to let these people have their hearing. And so, but additionally, I have provided you with a new, and the statutes also, but then I revised the resolution that you guys adopted earlier this year to include some of the things we just talked about here and to exclude some of the things like the incorrect information that they had in there. So I would ask that you adopt the attached resolution.
Excellent, thank you. So I'm looking for a motion to adopt the resolution as written. That would be to oppose this detachment from the city of Breezy Point, as we had so approved before, but this is an updated resolution and we do need to pass the new resolution.
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilmember Bakken. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Councilmember Ball. Discussion. Councilmember Maroney, any discussion at this point?
None.
Councilmember Miller.
So in order for us to get to this hearing, Patrick, I would assume there's a mediation prior to said hearing?
That's a requirement of statute.
Okay, that's all I,
Councilmember Ball.
No, nothing.
Councilmember Bakken.
No, sir?
Okay, hearing no other further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The motion is carried. All right. So we will move forward with that. All right. Yep. So at this time, I'm going to recess the meeting for 5 minutes because we will be entering into executive session after that. So at 9:04, we will reconvene.
Do we need these still unpaid?